everyone, and welcome to another episode of Anything But Ordinary with Spooky and Raven. Tonight's topic is Paranormal Talk with our guest, Joe Malolot. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm your host, Spooky, and here's your other most awesome host, Raven.
Hey.
Hey, I couldn't even talk.
Yes, well, that happens when you do live shows, and you never know how it's all gonna turn out, but, yeah, I'm kind of tired. I mean, I've been up north for several days, because we had a lot of stuff we had to do up there still, so it's been...
Yeah, you guys had a series of tornadoes go through there, didn't you?
Yeah, we had cleanup to do, lots of trees went down, and of course you had to berry picking, you're out there for hours, and the only strange thing I saw this time, not like last time, but this time I saw a bear, but this time it wasn't in the berry batch with me. It was it was in another field, so I was okay with that, but, for tonight, you guys, Paranormal Talk, for those of you who are new, it's a reoccurring show topic that we've been doing since we basically started doing live shows, which was like almost 5 years ago, right?
Right.
But Paranormal Talk is basically where we invite you guys, our viewers, to come on and share with all of us your own personal encounters with, the paranormal, cryptid stuff, UFOs, anything like that, And I know we actually haven't been doing these for a while just because we've kind of just been focusing on doing viewer topic requests, but we still are doing them. So if there's anyone who's listening tonight or in the future, when you're listening to our podcast, if you guys want to come on and share with all of us stuff that you guys have encountered, your photos, your EVPs, or video, or whatever, just, contact us here or on Facebook or at our email, anythingbutordinary@live.com. But, yeah, tonight's going to be an interesting one, that's for sure.
Well, tonight's guest has had some frightening encounters when it comes to the paranormal and cryptid kind. Many refer to them as dogmen or a skinwalker.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple different names depending on what part of the country that you're in, but
right.
I know, I've had my encounter with a black-eyed adult, and you've had yours with Bigfoot and stuff, but I don't know if I could actually handle encountering what Joe has, that's for sure.
Oh, I know. Joe reached out to us and wanted to share his encounters, but due to the fact that he is in a different time zone than Raven and myself, and is often still at work when we air live, we do have a recorded interview with him from last week.
Well, what happened is he reached out to us, and
what I said.
I know, but I just didn't hear exactly what you were saying.
Oh, sorry.
It was kind of muffled, so I don't know if my audio thing was going funny or whatever. But yeah, he wanted to come on live, but he's still working during the time that we're on and everything. But he wanted his encounter to be out there. He wanted everybody to, all of us to hear it and stuff. But
and it kind of helped him too, talking about it.
Exactly. But we'll be playing this recording for you guys tonight. We did it last week. And at first I thought, I'll just post it up as just a podcast right away. But Spooky thought it'd be better if we just kind of aired it live. That way we can all kind of banter and chat back and forth. And hopefully, he said, if he does get out and work in time, that he might be able to get towards the end of the show. And maybe he'll be able to pop into chat or whatever. But both Spooky and I, we just want to thank you again for contacting us and for sharing with us your experience, Joe.
Okay, yes, we do. It was quite an interview. So, Raven, why don't you go ahead and play the pre-recorded interview for the people now?
Okay, hold on a second.
Everyone, we would like to welcome Joe to the show.
Hi.
Hi, hello, Joe, and welcome. Thank you for reaching out to us.
Oh, no problem. I mean, thank you guys for helping me out, just hearing me out. I mean, that's a lot of help already. See, my encounter, it started off in the Philippines, actually. It was in 2004, and there's always been a folklore in the Philippines that's been around way back, even before World War II. My grandma, grandpa, they always talk about this, like strange creatures in the Philippines, like the Aswang. And the funny part about it, they told me why these evil presence actually are real, that people believe in it, because there's so many deaths that happened in that land has been conquered by the Spaniards, the the Japanese, the Americans, and there has always been a war in there. And and there's a lot of spiritual things that's been happening. But where I come, where the story is most Filipinos know what an aswang is, and they know they come from a certain island in the Philippines, which they call Capiz. It's in the Panay Island in Bisaya, which is the middle of the Philippines, where we traveled from California to Manila all the way down to Capiz, because my ex-wife, she was born and raised in Capiz. But there's this one time that really freaked me out, because she lived in a province called Doyok. Doyok is like it's weird. It's like a farmland, and there's like hectares of land, all sugar cane. And the only way to get there was through this railway thing, where that there's a cart where they push you, where you sit in the cart and these guys push you across the railroad track all the way to the other side of the river. And by the time we reached the middle of the river, I looked down. It was like at least like 200 or 300 feet down where the river is. It was so surreal. Like it was like the jungles of Vietnam looking. It's like,
Wow, that's like an experience right there within itself.
yeah,
Really.
it was breathtaking. You could see the rocks and everything all the way down to the riverbed. My ex-wife tells me that the river, it gets really high when it's rainy season. I had my daughter with us during the time. She was only like 4 years old, or three, becoming four, and she was just a baby still. And when we went to Doyok, we finally reached the province of Doyok, where we the cart stopped, and we walked up this hill, and there was like this trail, and there was these bamboo houses, like nipa, they call it nipa huts. If you ever seen those bamboo houses, where they're like hidden in the cuts of the trees and stuff, and then when you look inside, they have no lights in there, but you could see prying eyes, like people looking at you. It's like, whoa, there's a stranger here. There's someone. There's someone different. Like someone new. Is our town. So during that time, they were supposed to have like a little party thing, and so her family and everything came out and visit us to greet us. And one particular member of the family is her auntie, and she I forgot her name though, but she stood out of all the other people there, because her mom even told me, her own mom, my ex-wife's mom, and my ex-wife told me, whatever you do when you speak to her, don't turn your eyes down. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, just keep staring straight at her eyes, and if you turn your eyes down, they'll show weakness. That's what she said, and they'll show disrespect. I said, oh, okay. But, being American, it's like, it's strange. Like you can't like eyeball a person and talk to them completely through a full conversation, just eyeballing a person. You're going to turn down or blink or somewhat. Well, okay, we went to her uncle's house, and during her uncle's house, she came up to her auntie and her mom. They put garlic inside my daughter's diapers. She had diapers on because, in the province, you're not sure. She wasn't used to not using a toilet. So they put garlic in her diaper. And I was asking her, why are you putting garlic for her? And she said, my auntie is a swang. And I said to her, no, are you serious? It's a swang. You meant she's a vampire, a shapeshifter, or whatever, skinwalker, what we call them here. But down there, they're called a swang. And she says, yeah, the whole town believes it. And the whole town said that she ate her children. And I said, no way. I was like, didn't believe it at first. But when I met her, they introduced my daughter to her, and my eyes was turned the opposite direction, talking to her brother. But I heard him on the right side of my ear saying in the language in Tagalog, which is a Filipino language. Um, they stated, please don't aswang my granddaughter, or please don't aswang my daughter." And they talked. They said that to her auntie. And then she nudged me and said, he goes, "Hun, I'd like you to meet my auntie." And then I turned around and, I just turned my head towards her. And I looked at her eyes, and I'd never seen anyone with such marble black eyes. And I didn't, I mean, you couldn't see the white in her eyes.
Wow.
And it was amazing. It felt like, it was like she was piercing right through me. And she started talking to me and said, "Oh, hi." She said, "You're from America," and she was speaking in like a broken English type language, but it's not too much. And then my eyes just turned down, and when my eyes turned down, I noticed my ex-wife Kim looked straight at me, like, whoa, like, that looks like, why'd you do that. And I didn't really believe it at first. I thought she had like some kind of eye issue, like medical issue or something. I never heard of a black-eyed adult or black-eyed children or whatever like that during that time. You know, um, I couldn't really understand too much of their dialect because they weren't speaking like in a Tagalog dialect. There's several, like, 100 dialects in the Philippines. Theirs was what's that? Ilonggo is what they call it. It's a different dialect that I understand since I was a kid. So we went to the party. It was like, it's not really a party. It's like a reunion type thing with the family there, and me and the uncles were just sitting there and we're drinking, and he was telling me like, how was it in America and so on like that. Are you guys okay? I heard about the two towers in 9/11, and I was like laughing. I said, "What are you talking about? That's in New York." I'm in California. And after that, and then suddenly this conversation started coming up with like dogs. They had like a farm full of like, they have a chicken farms, and the chickens and some of the goats were missing, and no one knows what's going on. People are saying there's werewolves, there's wolves, there's they call it lobo. A lobo means a werewolf in Tagalog. And the whole scenario of the farmland is like, it's like a dirt road, like, and they have a hut there, and all surrounded by sugarcane plantation. I was talking to them about Aswang and stuff, and about their auntie. She was known to be Aswang because everybody in the province knows she is, because every time you're around her, I mean, they said that they have no proof of what's going on, but they stated that she had killed her kids and ate them, but they had no proof what's going on. And there was like there's people missing in the province, like children, and it's never been reported because their technology is really low. They don't have internet. The police are like miles away. So, and the hospitals are miles away. So they believe in like this thing called the aboleros, which is a witch doctor. And the Aswang is actually a witch, an evil witch doctor that actually have an oil that they're cursed they put an oil on them, and the belief in the Filipino belief is that their body splits in half and they fly off, and they have this long tongue. They go on the roof, and they like to suck the blood of newborn babies. And
I actually saw some when I was, doing research throughout the years for different stuff. I did come across articles and people talking about what you're kind of talking about. So it's interesting to hear.
yeah, my ex-wife, we were like drinking a beer, and I was talking to her, and then she told me, when I was walking from school in Doyo, because the place, there's no street lights. When they walk to their schools, like miles away, like about 5 mile walk, right in total darkness by the time they get off school, and they're somehow they get used to running through the road. She said one time during noon, she seen this big huge dog there, and I said, "Nah, really?" I said, she goes, "Yeah, I've seen the dog," and I said, "You're just trying to scare me. You're just trying to mess with me." But what happened at the they cooked some food, and we had to go upstairs to eat. So they called us all upstairs to eat. But I needed to use the restroom so bad. So they said, "Oh, do you need to, to go pee or something, right?" I said, "Yeah." And then they showed me this door to the back where there's this bamboo steps you go down, and the house is on stilts. It's like it's 4 feet above the ground on stilts. That's how they make them. Underneath, it's like all dark, and all around the house is a sugarcane plantation. Then I started feeling weird when I went to. They said just pick any place, just go pee anywhere. And us guys will just go and pee anywhere. But when I did that, and then I was just had my senses open, but felt like someone was watching me.
What time of day was this? Is it like in the evening or afternoon or?
Coming to nighttime already. But there's still like light from the moon. It was a full moon. You could see right through it. It's pretty clear. It was the strangest thing because when I felt something looking at me, I turned to the right and I seen these yellow eyes. These yellow eyes are pretty big, like golf balls. It just went into the trees, and I was hearing some noise. I was like, "What the heck is that?" Said, "Who's there? Who's there?" Like anybody else would do. Who's there? I freaked out, and then I cut it short and tried to walk up. I walked up those stairs, but by the time I reached the middle of the stairway, I looked to my right, and on those sugarcane, the sugarcane trees, or whatever, those plants, I see these yellow eyes just running from one side to another and went out towards nowhere, and that's where it disappeared. I just seen it just come across and took off, and I ran upstairs, and I told my wife, and then her uncles and her brother, and said, "Kuya Joseph." Kuya means big brother, a brother, He said, "Kuya Joseph, don't mind that. That's just probably a dog or something like that." I said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Man, that really freaked me out. And then we went back. We went back home, and at that time we just got drunk and just rode back home. The next day, we went back there again because my wife misses the place. She wants to visit. We were there for 2 months. So the next day we went back there to Doyok again, right? We went hiking around the place. I seen one of them water buffaloes, how big they are. They're huge and stuff. And we seen this cat when we went around the corner, and this cat was so big, like a big poop, and there was hair in it. And I know definitely if there's hair in scat, that's a predator. That's
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, water buffalo and all that stuff. They don't have, it's definitely like a wolf or a cat or something that eats other animals for sure.
Yeah, so it sort of freaked me out, and then every time we were walking at this one path around the corner, we're just really close to the house. We're walking, and then I hear like every time we take like 5 steps, I hear some like 1 step or 2 steps like behind us and stuff, you know. So this is during the day. I mean, this like in the afternoon still, you know, and like 2 or 3 o'clock, and we went back to the house to the Nipa hut where her family is, and they cooked food again. They had this barbecue stuff, you know, they barbecued pig, fish, rice, all that good stuff, and everything was good and fine, you know. And then we were going home that day early. It was around like 8 o'clock or seven o'clock. It was still daytime, but it was turning into night. So we hopped on a jeepney. After we around that time, we took that this one road where we hopped on a jeepney. And you know what a jeepney is, right? It's like it's like a jeep bus type thing like they have in the Philippines. Well, I'd never been on a jeepney, so they told me, hey, why don't you sit on the top of the jeepney? So I went on the top of the roof, right? And her uncles and all of us were on top of the roof, and her brothers. And then when I we were when I looked to the right side, I felt something staring at me again. And it was okay, like it's like dusk right now. And then there was this farm right next to this dirt road, and we were on top of the jeepney, and you could see where like in between trees, like these small bushy trees, there was this dark object there, and it was standing up, and then it came out of the bush on all fours, and it started staring at me. I swear to God, it was a dog. It had a dog's nose, a dog's face, yellow eyes. It had a it had like shoulders, like, but it was on. It was like it had fingers. The fingers were long. They're long fingers. I've never seen how some animal fingers, like some people say like a raccoon, but I never really looked at a raccoon's finger. But if they say that's what it is, I mean that's what it looked like. The legs was like it's like a dog's leg, you know, and it's just like that just exactly like the picture on the T-shirt I have that Vic Condiff I bought from him on Dogman Encounter.
Was it standing on two legs or was it on four?
It was standing on 2 legs, walked forward, and then went on all four. And all I did, I screamed at her brother. Said, "She see that? Look at that thing. That's a dog, man." I said, "That's a dog," and they said, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's the dog. That's the dog." I mean, even my ex-wife even said, "That's the dog I seen," and that thing was as big as a water buffalo. That thing was huge, and it just kept staring at me. And the driver, we told the driver, "Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go," and he just guns it. He just guns it out, and then the dog was just staring at us, and he was taking like a couple of steps towards us, and the driver took off. And you know, there were witnesses, you know, that seen this, and I was freaked out. I was like, "Oh my God, I never seen such a thing." I said, "What if that thing chased us? You know, it could have tore everybody apart." And my daughter was on in the bus in the bus too. And after a few miles later, they stopped the car because I was getting sick. I was getting really sick. They said, "Oh, Kuya Joseph is throwing up on top of the car, on top of the jeepney, you know, on top of the roof of the jeepney." And after it stopped the jeepney, they were like tapping on the jeepney and stopped on the side. They helped bring me down, and then they put me in the bench there in the jeepney. My wife had me on her lap, you know, while her mom was holding my daughter Kiana, and they had a bag, and I was throwing up on the bag. I was getting cold sweats. My stomach was turning upside down, and I felt like I was dying. Literally, I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was dying, and it wasn't because of like food poisoning or anything. It just felt like really weird. I was like blacking out and popping back into consciousness, blacking out and going back into consciousness, and it happened like 4 times on our trip. And our trip back to the house that me and my ex-wife bought for my daughter. It was in the city of Rojas City, which is about a 2-hour drive. And by the where we had that house blessed, you know, and we have like because we're Catholic, so we have the blessing in the house and so on. And once we stopped there, I was rolling around in that bus. I was really sick, and there was no hospital around there, especially at that time. The hospitals are like all the way like another like 20 or 30 miles out or something. And by the time but I'm not sure about 30 miles out. I don't know where the hospitals are there, but by the time we reached the house, they carried me out of the jeepney by, you know, like both their brother had my arm on each of their shoulders, and they pulled me out of the jeepney. And by the time I took like 3 steps out of the jeepney, it was lifted. I mean, I didn't feel sick. It just got lifted, just like that.
Like all your symptoms just disappeared.
Weird. It was like the weirdest thing I've ever felt in my life. It's like, yeah, spontaneously just gone, you know? And I was breathing normal. Everything was just, and I said, what just happened? And her family just prayed over me, pour holy water, and they started praying over me. And her mom said, you got Aswang. And then I said, what do you mean? And he goes, and her brother said, yeah, Kuya Joseph, you got Aswang. And my ex-wife goes, that's because you turned your eyes down on Auntie Daya. And when she said that, I was a bit creeped out about that. Ever since that day, I haven't been sleeping well. And sometimes, even now, I mean, I feel like there's somebody standing on the edge of my bed just staring at me.
Feel like there's every once in a while there's a presence of something that's near you or watching you, but you can't see it, but you can feel the energy or just feel it.
Yeah, I could feel the energy, and you know, I mean, it's really strange. Even I mean, during that time, I mean, I was hearing things like they were telling me that they call it tick tick or wak wak. That's nicknames they call for Aswang in their province. I said, why they call it tick tick? Because you hear this thing going tick 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 tick, you know, like flying up on the top. And several times I heard it there. Her dad said, yeah, that's a tick tick, you know. And I said, wow. I said, man, I never thought I could believe in this thing, you know. I never thought that there's something. The only thing I knew about this world was I thought it was like in Hollywood movies or something. You know, I never thought it was real, you know, to see something like that. And you know, it really did freak me out.
Yeah, it's strange when you have encounters with stuff, like when I had my encounter with the black-eyed adult, it's like it's seared in your memory as though it just happened. Like there's moments where it's like you know, you have all these things that happen in your whole life, but there's certain things that just leave an imprint on you. And you know, when you saw her auntie and the eyes, do you remember if they were a different shape than how everybody else's eyes were, or they were just all black?
It was just all black.
Yeah, because the person I saw, they had almond shape eyes, where it was a little bit different than how a normal eye shape should be or whatever. But I know exactly what you're talking about, because when you're looking at it, it's almost like, you know, your brain's trying to analyze what you're looking at because it's so unnatural. But there's no contacts in the world or anything that could play off that exact same effect that you saw in that person's eyes. You know what I mean? I mean, those are real. There's no way that you can create that by any contacts, by any means.
Especially in the province, and that's a poor province. Where could you buy contacts like that there, you know?
Right, and why would she be walking around wearing contacts? You know,
Yeah.
It's not something that they would normally probably do.
Did anyone else on the jitney get sick?
No, only me.
Only you. And members of her family were in there?
Yes.
I'm just kind of wondering if, do you think maybe you became bewitched because of her, because you looked down from looking at her?
Yes, I do believe that is true, because that's what my ex-wife told me too. He said that's because you look down. I mean, you showed disrespect. You got Aswang.
Did anybody give you any advice on how to get over this, to get rid of it?
Well, the next few days they brought in a witch doctor, a Christian witch doctor that actually um, was, like praying over me, and they call it panghilot. That means he massages the evil spirits away from you. And he had this egg. He rolled it on my chest and on my head, and then cracked it in like a water glass.
Yeah.
And then it was blood came out, and there was a shape of he said like a dog, like a aswang. He said you've been aswanged, and he said he took it off me, but still, I mean, when he got it out of me, I felt better, but the thing is, like, the memory still remains.
Yeah, well, of course. Do you think that this dog thing that you saw was the auntie?
Yeah, I think it is. It felt like it's her, because the way she stared, the dog stared at me, or the way she stared. There were so many people in jeepney, and that dog just stared straight at me.
You were the ones it locked eyes with.
Yeah, I'm the only one it locked eyes with. No one else.
This garlic thing in your daughter's diaper what was the purpose of that? Was that the purpose to keep the auntie away from your daughter, or bewitching your daughter?
Yeah, well, see, that's been a folklore in Philippines for a long time. Garlic keeps us. They have all these weird things that they use garlic to keep the evil spirits away.
Yep, which we've heard in multiple cultures. Yeah.
Well, some cultures do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's several things they stated. If a aswang leaves their house, they say you put like crabs in it, like like sea ocean crabs, and put salt around the house. It can't enter the house. They get tired out. There's these folklores. They say that their bottom part will split in half from the top and fly off. And if you find the bottom half for their body, you put salt on it so they won't reconnect. They're actually shapeshifters. Yeah.
They're very superstitious people.
Well, because we had remember Spooky when we did a show, and skinwalkers and shamans and stuff, and what you're talking about is very similar to some of the stuff that we were talking about with the native tribes here in America, whatever, and a lot of different words and different terms, but a lot of similarities and stuff. And when you were talking about the auntie, it reminded me of this one time where these kids, stayed home at their grandma's house, and their parents went or whatever, but the grandma was a skinwalker, and she had black eyes, like you were talking about the auntie and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and I was thinking about, like, had she always been like this, or did she get in contact with something or get possessed by a spirit that made her become, like you call, I don't know how to say the word right, but like skinwalker. So I'm curious if she was always like this whole entire life, if they ever told you like this, or if there was a point in her life where she changed and became this shapeshifter.
They said that she wasn't always like that. They said that she changed. I mean, she went to got into evil witchcraft, and
Ah,
they stated that because someone murdered her husband that she loved, it had something to do with love or something, that her husband got murdered, and she got into witchcraft. She had two children. The story goes she had two children, and it stated that the only way you could have your revenge and get into the towards the evilness, to be what in Aswang, that creature, you have to kill somebody that you love, and so she murdered both her kids and ate them. And when I was listening to folklores, American Indian folklores, the skinwalkers, they said the shaman tells the skinwalker to kill somebody they love so they could change skin.
Right. Yeah, because when we were doing the show on the Skinwalker as well, I remember researching it about it, and there was these people who, you're not supposed to openly talk about this, but they would take these young children, and some would be raised up as skinwalkers and others as the shaman, and the ones who were raised as skinwalkers, they had to choose by killing and eating different, like a certain animal, then they could take on that animal or whatever. And then the ones who chose to kill a loved one or ate a loved one, then they, like you were saying, that's how they became like they would have the red eyes. Where if they ate like an animal or whatever, then they would only possess like the yellow eyes, And what you were talking about, I just kept flashing back to previous things that we had read about or heard about. And it's very interesting that two different countries have very similar rituals and how they became the skinwalker. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah, like it takes a blood sacrifice of some sort.
of a loved one. You have to kill a loved one in order to become that complete darkness of whatever. I don't know how to say that word. I apologize. But yeah, but there was a lot of stuff that you were talking about, and it just was hitting home with so many things that we had talked about on different shows when it came to this, and it's just very fascinating. But when you saw the eyes, it was like nighttime. All there was moonlight, so it couldn't have been like how normal animals have an eye shine because of an outside light source. But do you think that these yellow eyes were emitting their own glow from within?
actually, yeah, because it was underneath the house, and there was no moonshine underneath the house. The house was 4 feet on stilts, and that's where I seen the lights, those two eyes. At first, I thought it was like maybe fireflies or something, but these were too big for fireflies.
Your mind's always logically trying to understand what it's seeing, so it starts to think of the first things that it relates to, but then you start to see it and you're like, no, that's not what I'm seeing. And like you said, then this thing started to move and then ran off, and you're like, I'm out of here, which I don't blame you.
But
And didn't you say when you were on the jitney it was during the day?
it was like dusk when it was
Dusk.
gonna be like getting dark already, but there was still light. I mean, you could still see sunlight.
Well, you had enough light that you got a good description, a good look at this thing.
Oh yeah, it was pretty close. I mean, it's hard not to. It's locking up eyes with me. I started doing some studies about these werewolves or whatever they are, and I noticed online when I looked up werewolves in the Philippines, there was this thing that caught my eyes, that there was this farmland there where there was like 20 goats that's been murdered, right? And they were all torn apart. And somebody said there was an eyewitness. They stated there was an eyewitness of a wolf man that ran through the bushes, the trees, which they seen this wolf man, and a lot of people there actually seen it. And the funny part about it is that the government issued a all-out search for this werewolf, shoot to kill. Why would a government do that?
Yeah, if it wasn't real, exactly. Obviously, there's been enough reports and incidences where livestock and probably people as well who had gone missing that were probably attacked by these things.
Yeah, you could actually Google it right now and you'll see it. I was really like, wow. I mean, these things are real. I mean, I don't know. There's no wolves in the Philippines. There's the Philippines.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there's no. I've never heard of any timber wolves or wolves like that to be in the Philippines. Cats maybe, but
Yeah, it's. Do they have a chupacabra down there?
Um, I don't know. I mean,
Is I'm
chupacabras.
trying to think of where that is. That's
that's Mexico and
It did stated
South
something,
America, someplace down in there.
but then again, there's plenty of UFO sightings everywhere,
Oh
and
yeah.
the Philippines. That there's a lot of sightings out there, and like I said, there's so many people died in those islands, and everywhere you stepped, I bet you there's somebody that died there. My grandfather died in the Japanese American War, which is World War II, at the March of Bataan, and fight. He was an American soldier, and there were so many people died there. So there's a lot of spirits roaming around, like good or evil spirits around
Oh,
that.
without a doubt. And there's it's kind of isolated down there in the Philippines too, isn't it?
At times, yeah.
Unless you're in the bigger cities, but I mean, there a lot of villages and places down there that are just isolated, like the place that you went to?
well, yeah, like he was explaining, it's really rural, this section. So
It's like no street lights, nothing. The people can't even afford a flashlight just to walk at night. So,
So it's not only isolated, it's kind of primitive too, isn't it?
yes, pretty much. Especially if you ask any Filipinos, if you know any of them, and ask them where's the Aswang first originated, they'll tell you the same thing. Capiz, the same island where I cited that the black-eyed adult and the Aswang, the dog, is in Capiz.
do you know if her aunt is still alive?
If it's still alive.
If her auntie is still alive?
But right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm like shaking right now. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, just tripping off it, just bringing back all this is just sort of affecting me. Yeah.
And it's intense. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is when you have I've never witnessed a dog man. I don't think I ever want to personally up close. Maybe like see it via IR cam or something, because we had a friend, they had a dog man that was stalking her place for a while and stuff, and it would peer in the windows all the time and things like that. So, and she said that when this thing looks at you, it's like it pierces deep right through your soul. Like it can read you, and that it's like telepathically taunting you. It's
That's exactly how I felt too when it was staring at me. Just like how her auntie was staring at me. Like it was like deep through me, it was just going right through me.
I know that you said that a witch doctor prayed over you. Have you thought about going to? You said you were Catholic. Have you thought about going to a priest and having a priest anoint you and pray over you?
Actually, I did. My mom is a Carmelite nun, and a friend of ours, he passed away already. He's a priest. He's actually an exorcist priest. His name is Father Bart. I confessed to him, and he prayed over me. It helped a lot. But
But it's burned into your mind. It's kind of hard to get over.
My mind, and it still gets me nervous, and sometimes I can't sleep because I'm a light sleeper. Any noise, I get startled, and I don't have to sleep again, for hours. And, I feel like something's there or, but it won't do nothing to me, I learned to ignore it sometimes, but then sometimes I get these dreams. Like just one dream, I was drinking water in a river, and then I just seen this dark shadow and then a flash of light and a big bang, like somebody shot me or something. That's all I've seen, and I wake up.
You always feel like you're being haunted by something ever since these experiences. Do you believe? I might have missed something. I got up for a second to turn my fan off, but do you think that the auntie and the dogman are the same thing or two different entities? Like the dogman is something totally on its own.
I think they're the same thing because there's no wolves in Philippines. There's and if there was, somebody would have caught them already because
Right.
it's an island, and then there'd be a group of people with guns trying to catch this thing. Not unless that thing became a human, and then you can't tell who's who.
Yeah, there's some people who say that people change back and forth into things, and then there's some people who have seen these dogmen and believe that they are strictly a creature, a type of animal, and nothing more but this type of animal, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, there were stories back as far as back as we were reading when we were studying about different things and how, when the natives were traversing across the Americas, they were talking about how they were running into different humanoids, some of them being like Bigfoot, some of a dogman, some birdmen, some lizard men, and things like that, and how some of these were completely evil and were, killing their people and stealing their women and children, while other ones that,
I
they weren't as hostile. So it's
I
hard to say.
I just remembered another story. What her uncle told me about their grandpa. Yeah, we at the last week we were there in the Philippines before we were gonna take off to the U.S. We actually had a big party, right? And all the people were there except for Auntie with the black eyed Auntie or whatever. She didn't show up, but her uncles were there and everything. And then we were getting drunk, just drinking beers and taking shots, and we were eating food and stuff like that. And they started telling me a story about their grandpa or grandfather. One of the uncles or grandfather or great uncles or something like that. They told me that he married a girl that was Aswang. Um, and what happened is that he he loved her so much that she was dying, and I don't know what she was dying of, but she was dying, and he wanted to save her, so he's started selling himself to the devil or whatever, and he got started getting sick to become a swan. But the story goes is that he refuses to eat human flesh. So he just kept getting the older he got sicker and sicker, and even her dad and her mom swore by this, and their uncles swore by it. They brought him to the hospital, and when they took him to the hospital before he died, he started throwing up, and lizards start coming out of his mouth. Like
Wow.
actual lizards was coming out of his mouth, and I was like, "Wow, it's just are you guys ain't pulling my legs?" And so I said, "No, why should we?" They said that you met Auntie Daya, right? And went like that. I said, "Yeah." And you seen the big dog, right? And I said, "Yeah." And then they said, "Well, why wouldn't you believe what we're saying now about their great uncle or grandpa or?"
Well, one, it's kind of hard to, wrap your mind around all of these things that you were experiencing. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And because we come from a world where we're kind of preconditioned and built up on a certain belief system, like you're basically, you know, a product of your environment, and we're taught that all these things don't exist, they never existed, it's just Hollywood, it's this, that, whatever. But when you read back throughout human history, throughout every culture, they talk of these things, of
yeah,
all these different things, and that they have existed, that they have battled with them, and that, and now because of the internet, people are coming forward and telling about all their encounters throughout the years, and things like Dogman encounters and other online sites and radio stations where people are calling in and they're sharing their encounters. And at first you think, okay, maybe it's just one or two people have seen this, but there's hundreds of people who are encountering this, and there are people from all walks of life, lawyers, doctors, to housewives, to whoever, and they're all encountering strange things. And they all can't be making it all up, and it's been, it dates all the way back as far as you can read.
Yeah.
Now I know. Okay, first of all, I want to say I know that what you saw, you will never forget. Okay.
Yeah.
I know that you will always remember that. But do you think that the reason that this just bothers you so much and affects you so much is because until you went down there, you probably would have never thought that anything like this existed? And what you knew in life was just, it was almost like everything that you knew in life was just suddenly changed, that there are things actually out there that you just can't explain or you can't believe or whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it. But it's unexplainable. But as
Right.
much as I want to say, tell the story to people, and without them looking at me like I'm crazy or whatever, because I know I'm not crazy. I've seen it, and I know it happened because I was there.
Well, I've never, right. There were other people that saw it too. But
Yeah,
for some reason, what I got from your story was they knew it was there, but they more or less ignored it because to them it wasn't strange. I mean,
yeah,
I've never had an experience like that. I have had a Bigfoot encounter, a very close Bigfoot encounter. So I know how something like that can, and I didn't believe in them until then. So I know how something like that can affect you, and it's actually a life-changing experience.
yeah.
But
You're correct about that, Spooky, because maybe maybe it's because the people there, like what you said, the people there, like my ex-wife, she was so accustomed of these things. She even
right,
the dog too, and the people there, they talked about it like it's no big deal. It's like, I noticed like when I went to use the bathroom, I mean not the bathroom, I went down to go pee, and then I told them about those yellow eyes running around the sugar cane. They said, don't worry about it, it's just a dog. It's like maybe to them it's just a normal thing.
yeah. Well, it's like this is something that is in their life almost constantly.
Yes.
They know it's there. They've seen it before, and it's just like it's to the point that they just kind of ignore it because they know it's there. They know what they've got to do or what they shouldn't do.
Yeah.
It's part of their life.
Well,
Yeah.
right. It's a part of their upbringing, something they've seen. Yeah, like I said, we're kind of like, we realize that the world is so much bigger than our backyard, and we're in a section where, we don't have these things as much. But then when you start to get into areas, like in rural areas and stuff, people tend to have more encounters with these Bigfoots or dogmen or whatever else. But
I feel inside me like I want to go back there and just look
see
around.
it again, yeah, and just to
Yeah.
prove to yourself like this really did happen.
I want to go there and just to see the place again. Maybe her auntie's probably passed away already, but just just to see it again.
You just more or less want to confirm to yourself
Yeah,
or prove to yourself that it absolutely existed.
yeah. Even if
I
I
can
don't,
I can understand that.
yeah. Even if I didn't see it, or if I didn't see any prints, just to prove to myself, just to feel it again, and then I actually faced up to it. Like people are afraid of heights, and they'll to get out of heights.
Yeah, I
But
am.
it's like that.
Oh, I totally understand where you're coming from. And I think it's kind of good that you're talking about it, because the more you talk about it, the more you kind of just get it out of you,
Yeah,
And as far as being haunted by these things and everything else, it's really hard to say because you don't really know what these things are, what they're working with, and how much spiritual type of forces are connected with it,
what the
and what kind of
yeah.
yeah, or what if it's just a one-time thing, or if it kind of always just kind of stays connected with you. Like I said, when I've had my experiences, with the black-eyed adult that I experienced, it's just like imprinted on me like forever. Like it just happened. You know what I mean? It's like something you just never forget. But the thing is like you can't be fearful of these things, because I think in a way that almost feeds feeds whatever negative more around you. And it might not even be them that you're feeling now. It could be other things around you, just because there's just so much stuff out there that maybe in the spiritual realm they know of your. I'm not saying this is real or not real. This is just just friendly, open banter, like just thoughts in my head type of thing. But maybe there's other things that you're experiencing just because of the environment that you're in now, or the area you're in now, or the people that you're hanging around, or whatever, and maybe sometimes they manipulate you to have these thoughts pop back up just because maybe they feed off of fear. And maybe I'm not sure, maybe that grandma, she fed off the fear, or auntie, excuse me, grandma, auntie, whatever. I apologize.
No.
It's just there's so much going through my head because of what you told us tonight. It just blows my mind. I totally 100% believe you, because I know the experiences that I've had. I know the experiences that Spooky has and our friend had with their dogman and stuff. But I don't know if I could. I don't know how I'd react if I had experienced what you experienced, being there in the Philippines, being out in the countryside, one, being in a vulnerable position because you were going to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden there's this creature there close enough to pounce on you. I don't know how I don't even know if I would have froze or flew up the stairs without pulling my pants up. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know how I would have reacted. And then when you were on that bus type of Jeep thing and you guys were all sitting on top, and this thing was obviously close enough for you to see in great detail, the coloring, the fingers, the height, everything. It's just amazing.
I think it wanted you to see it. I really do. I think that it wanted you to see it.
Yes, yeah. One thing I do know is like when I remember I told you guys the story. I went out to pee, and when I went upstairs, I remember my wife saying, "Hey, you should wipe your pants. It's a little wet."
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened. All I know, I went out to pee, and when I went upstairs, my pants was wet. So, but it wasn't like, it wasn't really like going through my mind at the time. It's just, she just said, "Hey, what happened to your pants is wet?"
Yeah,
said,
like what?
Up here,
Yeah, she's kind of like, what happened to you, And did you ever tell them when you came back inside what you saw, or did you kind of keep it to yourself?
Oh yeah, I told the uncles and them. They just said, that's probably just dogs.
Yeah.
Just dogs roaming around. They got wild dogs out there," he says.
I've never known any animals that emitted the light from their own eye shine. Yeah, if a reflective, like if a light was nearby, a bright light source that could, like how cats have an eye shine or whatever. But from the way you're explaining it, it wasn't a reflective eye shine. These eyes were yellow.
Yeah, it was
you
actually
could see
cool.
them in the dark. So.
And you ever see a sugarcane plantation? It's sort of like a corn plantation,
Yeah.
sort of. Funny part, I mean, when that thing, the one thing I noticed when I was going halfway up the stairs, I looked and I seen those glowing eyes or whatever they are. Well, they're they're pretty tall.
Yeah, like the height for this was a lot bigger than like a normal dog would be to the ground level.
And sugarcane gets pretty tall.
It was about like 8 feet.
Wow.
I can only imagine what was going through your head, let alone, there's other animals, who live there that you know of that are predators there. It's not like when you go in the royal area at nighttime, you have to be aware of your surroundings anyway for your own safety, just because you know what is there, snakes and everything else. but you weren't expecting to, go out there for a moment and then look over and see two eyes, emitting a yellowish glow, like you said, about almost 8 feet up. So.
Well, yes, I'm Filipino too. I was born in Manila, but I came here when I was like, what, 4 years old to the U.S.
Hmm.
I was pretty much raised in the U.S. and I mean, the folklore has been around for years.
Yeah.
I've
It's
been,
just something that you guys kind of heard about and grew up with just because of your culture and stuff then.
so probably it's because you know how they try to discipline the kids and say, oh yeah, if you don't listen to your mom, you're gonna get aswang or s- like a dog's gonna pick you up, or so you better stick with me, don't wander off. You know,
Yeah.
they say stuff like that when we were kids.
Yeah.
I never knew it was true.
There's always, well, yeah. That's what kind of like, I think what Spooky was trying to explain, like, um, what kind of bothers you the most is hard. You're still kind of thinking back to what you saw. Did this really happen? You know it happened, but because of the strangeness of it all, and because we're told these things don't really exist by societies, bigger society anyway, but
Yeah.
you know what you saw, you know what you felt, you know the sickness that you were feeling. It's almost like this thing when it was staring at you and you were making eye contact with it. It's as if it was doing something to you at the same time. It
It
just the whole
felt
thing
real.
is the yeah. Oh no, I know the whole thing to me is just scary to me. Just for you to have that encounters, it just, wow, I couldn't even imagine um, going through that. I mean, I've had my experiences, but they were different experiences in totally different ways. But like I said, I don't know how I'd be able to handle that situation. And, it's just something, I know she's saying, well, maybe if you do this or maybe this, maybe it'll help relieve it a little bit. But I don't know, it's hard to say when you go through a traumatic experience, because it kind of is a traumatic experience. Just like if you were robbed.
In my pants for sure.
But just like if you get robbed at knife point or anything else, it's a huge thing that you experienced, and it's very
Yeah.
scary. Extremely scary.
And you never know how you're going to react until it does happen to you.
Yeah. This December, hopefully, if out, I could gather up enough for a plane ticket down there, and when I do, you guys are the first one I'm gonna contact.
Oh
And,
yeah.
Yeah,
and
I was just going to say right before you said
yeah,
that when you do go back down there, because I have no doubts that you will, when you do go back down there, when you get back, to give us a call and let us know how things went.
yeah, I'm gonna do a vlog there.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It's,
Like bring some video, like maybe like a
yeah,
knockoff GoPro or something, just for your own. And you know what? You may never see one again, and I would probably think you probably. But in my mind, I probably would think. I mean, I know. Here's my thing. If somebody said, "Here's your choice. You can either have a run-in with a Bigfoot or a Dogman," I would think I would pick a Bigfoot any day over a
yeah,
Dogman. I
yeah,
just
absolutely.
the encounters that I hear, and with yours tonight, the dog man is just, it's very intimidating. There's something more to it than Bigfoots are. They seem more aggressive in their behavior
Yeah,
and their demeanor and the way that they stalk people. There's intelligence behind these creatures, these cryptid, these animals. And the fact that they're not just here in the United States, they're in Canada, they're in Europe, they're all over the world.
Australia. I've
Yeah,
a lot
everywhere.
in
And
Australia.
yeah, and you yourself, like you said, you listen to Dogman encounters, and I've met other people who've had encounters and talked with them. And I just have to say that I just, oh, I'm just very grateful that, you had the courage, to, I don't know, keep going on after this. I don't know how I'd be if I saw a Dogman. I don't know if I'd fall apart or
Oh,
how or how I would have reacted. I'm not even sure.
I don't know what I would do.
You,
I would probably pee my pants and just be frozen. Did you ever get so scared that you couldn't even scream? That was probably what I would do.
I think I got so scared I felt like I was dying. That
Yeah.
was that day. I was throwing up, cold sweat, everything. It
I
was, it
I
was
was going to ask you when you were talking about that if you thought that maybe you were scared to the point that it actually made you sick enough to black out, but I think I'm leaning more toward the fact that this was the swang, and because it seemed to have singled you out.
Yeah, it's like it did something to you. I think it did something to you personally. I do. Just because of how quickly your whole body was affected.
Yeah, I do too. And when you left that jitney, it just disappeared. The sickness just disappeared.
yeah, that was like the most strangest feeling I've ever had in my life. I mean,
And that makes me wonder too if, since there were family members on that jitney, if maybe they're not carrying some of that energy.
yeah, it was
Maybe
just
it's like a family thing too, because you said a great uncle or a grandpa had it, and then the auntie had it, and maybe it's like maybe these spirit things or whatever this that helps people become this that
Yeah.
maybe there's these negative forces that are always hanging around that family or something.
yeah. That's why I always tell my daughter. I mean, me and my daughter jokes around. I said, whatever you do, you better not become a Aswang, because it's in your family blood. Your mom.
At least you are able to joke about it.
Yeah.
You know how do you know when if you saw this animal, if you remember if it made any sound at all?
Well, on the those lights, those eyes, I was hearing like a low growl. That's a really low growl. Like, it's
Like
like,
a tiger would make, or a cat, big cat, how they make that small. Yeah, but you know how they make that
well,
growling type of sound like that?
well, yeah, like how a tiger does a growl, but it's like a really soft, low growl. Like
Mhm.
you could barely not like you could hear it, but you can't hear it. Like
Yeah.
sound,
Yep. See, that's why I was asking this is kind of curiosity, because you know how there's certain animals that put out like infrasound,
Yeah,
and how infrasound they use it in a certain, and tigers do this too, but it affects their prey, which it can induce like fear or anxiety, and it affects the body and the
yeah,
prey. And infrasound actually affects humans too in multiple ways too, and maybe that's why you were experiencing this sickness and chills and everything else, because maybe this thing, possibly could have used something like an infrasound type of effect on you when it locked eyes with you. And it could have made, like you said, when the first time you heard it growling, maybe this other thing was doing something too and could have affected you. Because people talk about how, when they've had encounters with these things, how they got sick or got ill too. So when you
yeah.
were talking about that popped in my head, and how
That's
there's certain animals that we have known just like tigers, and they use that on their prey.
yeah, that's something caught my interest, something like that, because when I was locking eyes with the thing, but that low frequency, you're probably right, because when you're excited to see something like that and scared at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and especially you're like fearful for your life and everybody else's life, and you're banging on the jeepney saying, let's go, let's go, let's go, this thing's coming, you know
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
that you can't hear that low frequency sound if it's actually making it or not, but that
Right, because it's not a part of our
the
human
possibility.
level hearing. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just something that popped in my mind, because there are known animals, predators like tigers and stuff, that do emit infrasound to affect their prey. And maybe this, I call it dogman because I don't quite know what to call these, you know what I mean? because it's all yes. Well, all of this is new to me because we are all raised up a certain way just because we're a product of our neighborhood, of our environment. And when you become exposed to these things like I was with the black-eyed adults, Spooky the Bigfoots, and things like that, all of a sudden your whole reality is changed, and you see the reality for what it really is. It's a lot bigger, and there's things out here that are walking amongst us, basically. Yeah. And nobody really knows why. Why was I picked to see this? Why did I have this experience? Well, maybe it's not so much about focusing on the whys and everything else, but just experience, like this was a moment in life, and, all you can, and then you just go from there to whatever else. And because we can sit and pick apart our moments forever, but I don't think it's ever going to change what it is. It is what it was, and I just think it was amazing that you had that experience, but also I don't know how I would have reacted. I think your body went into instinct mode. You saw something, and your body automatically reacted and got you out of the situation, And then, like you said, you didn't really thinking. It was just automatic, boom, boom, boom. You're up the stairs. Yeah. And I think that's embedded in us, deep in our psyche, because I had an experience when I was just up north here recently at our farm. I was out in the wilderness and by myself, and I was picking berries. And normally I'll walk out there, and it's a good 40 acres away or whatever from our building or whatever. I go way out there to a certain area to pick berries. And normally I walk out there, but this time I thought, I'll just take the 4-wheeler out. I'll drive it there, pick up some berries, and then I'll explore and look for some hawthorn berry trees or wild plum trees and see if I can pick some of that stuff. So when I was out there picking blueberries, I kept hearing foliage, something walking on foliage, and I'd look up every once in a while because you can't become complacent when you're in the wilderness. It's like an open zoo. Anything can walk up on you. And I would, I'd look a little bit, I didn't see anything, I kept going back to work, and all of a sudden I looked up, and not even 200 feet away from me, a timber wolf was trotting out right in my direction. Wow. And for a second I thought, whose dog is that? And I'm like, wait, there's no dogs out here. And I popped my body automatically. I just jumped up from because I was squatting down picking the blueberries. I jumped up and as high as I could, I put my arms all the way out, and I just yelled, get out of here, get. And it was like my body automatically did it on its own. And this thing stopped. Wow. This timber wolf stopped. It turned and started to trot back a little bit of ways, and then it turned and looked at me again like, wait, what is this thing yelling at me? And it gave me enough time to, run a few steps over to the 4-wheeler. I cranked it on real quick, and I revved it loud a bunch of times, and this thing ran off a little bit more. It didn't take off all the way. It turned around and started watching me, but it gave me enough time to get on the 4-wheeler, and I just grabbed the berry bucket and I drove off, because when there's one, there's the whole pack. Yeah. But my reason for saying this to you is to explain that my body instinctively went into protection mode. It's because in my first thought in my head was whose dog is that? I'm like, wait, there's no dogs out here. That's a wolf. And then all of a sudden I was up in the air. My arms were way out, and my voice went lower. Terrified. Well, I wasn't terrified at the moment. It was just natural instinct, just went boom, And I was actually, when I got back to the house, I was playing in my head how all this happened. And I just was like, wow, I'm so happy I looked up when I did, because if I didn't look up in that couple seconds, it would have been, me and him would have been, me or her would have been face to face. And who knows what would have happened, And this thing, it could have, instead of turning around and trotting away a little bit to get away from me and to look at me again, it could have went into defense mode and attacked me. So there's so many ways that this thing could have played out, but it didn't play out. It played out the way it was meant to happen. But what I was saying is sometimes there's something within our body when we're put in a dangerous situation, or a potential dangerous situation like this, that for whatever reason, instinctively, something reacts the way it was meant to react. And I think that's why you acted the way that you did when you were outside relieving yourself, that it was almost like a quick blur that you don't even know. It's like your body instinctively took over and protected you and got you back into the house. Because if you would have kept sitting out there and thinking, like, what am I looking at? The whole situation could have ended up differently. Who knows? You might not even have been here today, because we don't know what it was that was out there. So it is interesting how our body reacts to certain situations. And I think it's just built in us instinctively, to react a certain way in a split second. But I think, it's hard. Exactly. Yeah. And it's hard for me and Spooky to, and the reason we're inquisitive or asking questions is not because we're trying to put anybody down or we don't believe you. We totally believe you. It's just we're really fascinated by this because we never had an experience like this, and we just want to learn as much as we can. Yeah, we just want to learn as much as we can about it. Oh, no, I believe you. I just want to learn as much as I can.
I didn't believe it myself until it happened to me. Yeah. So, usually for each is his own, until it happens. And that's when you start looking at the world in a different way. I mean, that's the way I felt about it. It's like, wow, these things actually exist. And it's not always in the movies, and I was like, wow.
It does make you look at the world a different way. It certainly does. Like I said, it's a absolute life-changing experience.
Yeah.
And you start looking at things a different way. You start questioning things. You even start questioning about things that you were taught as growing up or things that you thought you knew as an adult.
Yeah.
And that's how me and her started learning, like, and one of the reasons we all have these different conversations with our show topics and everything else, and then we start to realize, like, the history isn't what we're told it is. There's so much that's been altered or changed, and there are things out there that, do exist with us or have existed, and there's so many things, and it just kind of, it basically alters alters everything you once knew, changes.
Yeah. It alters your reality, really. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right about that. Sure, alters my reality.
Oh yeah, but I hope one day that you're able to go back there and, just walk the steps that you want to walk, experience what you want to experience again. And it's kind of like for your own peace of mind, not so much because you want to see something again, but just for your own peace of mind. Because, like, Spooky, she had run-in with Bigfoot, and I know she always thinks about, like, did I really see what I saw? And what you saw.
Oh, I questioned it for a long time, but I wasn't a stranger to Bigfoot because I had heard about it all my life. Back in those hills, I had never seen one, so I thought, oh, they're pulling my leg. That's like one of those things, like the monster under the bed will get you if you don't put blankets all over your body or something, just some sort of fairy tale. Yeah. And until I saw it myself.
But see, now we know monsters exist.
That's it. And that's the thing. We know that now that monsters do exist.
Where's Sam and Dean when you need them?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I hope hopefully that, you'll be able to go back and hopefully nothing scary happens and that you make it back or whatever. But yeah, now that when I go in the woods and everything else, I'm bringing a little GoPros and everything else because we also have Bigfoots in our area and stuff. And I've actually encountered some stuff, but we're going to end up talking on a few of our shows too, where I'm going to end up showing some photographs and everything else. But yeah, I mean, I totally understand why sometimes this haunts you because for one, I think it's a lot scarier than what I've encountered, because I have a feeling that dogmen just have something about them where they just leave an imprint on your soul, some type of, I think they thrive off of causing fear in people because
that's it. I think so too, because every show that I have ever listened to, and I listened to one show in particular on YouTube, Vic's show.
Yeah.
And you can tell that the people that go on that show and tell their story, you can tell that encounter that they had has just totally changed their life.
Yeah.
Well, right, like it did to Joe. Because our friend, we have a show, if you listen to one of our podcasts, she came, it has like a dogman photo on it. where she said when this thing stared at her through the window, but this one, I think, didn't she say it had red eyes? Yeah, it had red eyes. But she said it looked like this thing was grinning at her, like a mocking smile at her.
It's like that feeling like they have the power to overpower you. They have this confident look, and they're not afraid to look at you in that way. And yeah, it's just like that feeling when it was locking eyes with me. It did have that look on his face. It felt so confident, like it wasn't afraid of me. It just started walking closer to me, and that's when I started telling him, when it took one step, I started banging on the jeepney. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. I was telling everybody to go.
Yeah.
I was so, wow. I was freaked out, man. I mean, I talk about it now, my hair on my hair on my back is standing up. Just thinking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's just something that's with you forever.
Well, when you talked about the part about being in the jitney and seeing this thing, the hair on my arm stood up because I could tell by the way you were telling your story that this really happened to you.
Yeah, it really did, and it's
that's the thing. That's when people who have these encounters with strange things, like I did with mine and spooking hers and yours, it's when you're telling it, it's almost like you're watching it play out all over in your mind again. Like you're literally there again. You could almost, like, because of this moment, it's like you can tell people, like, this is the temperature felt like this. I was wearing these clothes. These people were wearing this. It's almost like you remember everything in great detail, but you can't remember what you went into the kitchen for 2 minutes ago. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's something like this. It's like I said, leaves a lasting imprint on you that you'll never ever forget. And God, I'm in awe of it. I don't know if I could have handled the situation how you handled it. I don't know if I would have froze outside, or if I would have made it inside, or if I would have became a victim like the other people. Like you said, there was people who went missing out there and animals who had been killed. There's just so many factors to this, and the fact that it's nighttime, you're out surrounded by sugarcane, you're in the rural area. It's just the screams horror movie. But yeah, I can totally. It's hard not to have fear, and I think having fear to a certain extent is good because it keeps us aware of protecting ourselves and knowing that there are things out there. But I think it comes to a point when we have these different encounters and experiences, we just can't allow the fear to run our life, and I think that's what Spooky was trying to say, but I don't think it is running your life. I just think you're just saying that this moment has left a definite impression on you, and it's good that it caused a certain amount of fear in you, because that way to respect and understand that there are things in this world that we can't explain that do coexist with us, And oh man, I just don't know. It's hard, this is you're the second person I've talked to physically who's had experiences with these things. And your reaction and your emotions are very similar to how our friends is, except for hers kept coming back. At least this thing isn't where you live and knows where you live, and it's not stalking you, Oh my gosh. It
stalked me in my dreams, though. I mean, when I sleep.
Yeah.
It's like a Freddy Krueger, a bad Freddy Krueger movie or something. I just can't sleep,
Have you ever reached out to other people who have had dogman encounter type experiences and talk with them and see if they have similar dreams and things like that you are having as well?
Not really. Only you guys and Vic is the only one I've spoken to about it.
Wow. I feel really privileged.
I do too. I feel very privileged that
you guys are great.
Oh, well, thank you. Joe, you have a YouTube channel. Would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah, it's called Crabzilla, and it's more like um it's more like a travel vlog channel where and fishing and so on like that, just around the Bay Area in San Francisco, where to eat, places to go. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, pretty cool. I have people contact me from Australia and one family from France that traveled there. They seen my vlog and they were so surprised they went to the pier and seen me there at Pacific.
Wow, that's awesome.
Like, wow.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool when you're watching someone's videos and everything else, and then you run into them and you're like, oh, hey, I've been listening to your stuff.
No, I think that's cool, that they watch your channel,
Yeah.
and suddenly, they get to meet you in person. I would probably be like that too for a couple shows that I watch on YouTube.
God, to me, you guys are legends.
Well, thank you.
You guys are the legends.
No,
I'm
we're
a
just
legend
two
too. You
friends.
guys- Yeah.
We're just two friends that had encounters and experiences and wanted to meet other people because, and you know what I mean? Because it's hard to talk to people who you're friends with in person and family because people don't kind of make fun of you or you know what I mean. So that's why I think a lot of us started reaching out to the internet, started finding other people, and then you start talking, and then you have like this community where people are actually supporting you. Of course, you always have those who tear people down, but there's a lot of us who come together and we support each other. And, with me and Spooky, when we're doing our show and stuff, it's just kind of like a nice place where we can all come together and talk about different topics, and we can all support each other through our experiences and be there for anybody else who's new and looking for someone to reach out to.
Thank you.
And I think by you sharing your encounter tonight, you're going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, I believe that too.
To open up to start reaching out, and they might possibly even reach out to you on your YouTube channel. You'll be surprised, but
Yeah.
I think that, and I hope too, that your story will help others to talk about theirs, because even like Vic's show, a lot of people come on there and tell their experiences, but there are so many more that don't and keep it to themselves. And I think that that's probably part of their problem too, is they just don't have anybody to talk to about it.
Yeah, this helped me out a lot. You guys really are really helping me. I'm sure I could sleep a lot better tonight.
Well, I hope so.
And hopefully now that you're opening up more about it, you'll feel more comfortable. And then by releasing it, it's kind of like you control it. It doesn't control you anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's how I felt when I finally started opening up, about my black-eyed encounter, because I kept it to myself and I thought, man, I'm crazy. I didn't even know what these things were at first. And then when I found out that other people have encountered it, but I'm like, I couldn't have encountered that because mine was adult and all people talk about is children, but mine was different. But for whatever reason, I had that experience. But the thing is, after I had that experience, I'd gone through a really huge spirituality change and growth and everything else. So sometimes maybe certain things happen in our life to push us forward in a direction.
Right.
And a life change direction. And maybe if you look back, you might see changes that occurred because of that experience that you had. And maybe later on you'll start to look at it different and think about different things that occurred because of that. And maybe it molded you and helped create you. And now that people know of your story, they might reach out to you and you might be able to help a lot of people too. And so that's the best thing I like about this, is helping people,
It did give me a life change. I started asking myself when those things happened. The first thing in my head is like, God, why didn't I have a camera back then? Okay, back then they didn't have a camera phone. Like the smartphone now. Back then was like the BlackBerry. Back then. So I was like, wow, I should have had a camera then. So now it's like I try to record everything I do in my life, and then one time I started doing that, and I was more like blogging, when I first started blogging, it's like I was saving all these videos in my hard drive. I couldn't keep them all on my hard drive, so I put them all on YouTube. And I didn't know that so many people were interested in what I was doing, but I just kept. That's what started me from blogging, is because that day I just kept asking myself, I wish I had a camera. I wish I took a picture of her auntie, so I have some kind of proof, that she's a black-eyed adult. Probably say, hey auntie, what if we do a selfie or something, and just, welcome to America. It's like, something like that. Some kind of proof.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly. Well, I know. And like, with the Timberwolf experience that I just had this past week, I actually had my GoPro going, and then I thought, who wants to watch me berry picking for like an hour, So I took it off. I turned it. I turned it off. I set it on the 4-wheeler, and when I set it down, I thought, well, maybe I should just leave it running on the 4-wheeler and just let it, have a viewpoint in case something come across. But I thought, now I'll just turn it off, save it for later. And I kept having this feeling like something was going to happen. So at one point I stopped and I took a picture of right in front of me where the Timberwolf ended up coming out of.
Oh
and then I, with my cell phone, and then I took a picture of the bears. I thought, I'll show Spooky this stuff later. So then I put my phone in my pocket and I went back to picking berries again. And then I looked up, and that's when I saw this. It was huge. It was like, it had a grayish, reddish, yellowish fur.
Yeah.
And I was...
See, that's when it happens.
But I had like
footage. The minute you put your camera down, that's when something happens.
Yeah, exactly.
It never fails.
And then people are like, why didn't you take a picture? Why didn't you do this? Well, you know what? Things happen so fast, and then your brain's trying to analyze what you're seeing. Half the time you don't even think about taking a camera. Yeah, you're thinking...
You don't think about that camera. You could have the camera right in your hands, pointed at it, and not even click the picture because your mind is going in other directions, and the last thing your mind is thinking of is, hey, I'm going to click a picture of this.
Or that thing they say, like, if it's not on film, it never happened.
That's not true.
Yeah, it's not true. But in your mind, it's like thinking, oh man, people might not believe you, because it's not on film. So that's why now I'm always bringing my camera when I blog. I like to blog stuff. Yeah, so hopefully when I go to the Philippines, you guys are going to be the first one after I edit the video or whatever. I want to send it to you guys.
Oh, wow. Well, we appreciate that for sure.
Well, we would be honored and very, very happy to see it.
But you never know what you might encounter in your own city, though, Joe. So, you might capture a black-eyed adult or who knows, because there's things that run around in the city.
There's actually reporting of dogman up here in California, actually.
We were just researching. Yeah, we were just researching dogmen, and I was surprised well, not really surprised because California's a big state and there's a lot of forest around up there. Yeah. But there were a lot of reports of dogmen from Northern California all the way down to San Diego.
Yeah.
So
there's reports of these things that are going into cities and small towns, and people are seeing them in their backyard. They're climbing on atop apartment buildings and roofs and everything else. So, I mean, these things they're pretty brave,
Yeah, those things. I mean, I can't see anything that scares those creatures, or they just do that to just
intimidate people. Yeah, the fear. I wonder if they feed off of that energy. I wonder.
I kind of wonder about that because they are so much more. A Bigfoot genuinely, usually, will avoid you. Most of your encounters with Bigfoot, most of them are by accident, but it just seems like these dogmen, they'll show themselves on purpose, like they're not afraid. They want you to know they're there.
Yeah. And they have strength to it. Like you said, it could have totally tore you guys apart and knocked that bus Jeep thing over, And
I know that when I was doing research, there's people that outrun them and they're running 60 miles an hour.
Yeah,
Off the,
right next to
it's
him.
like, wow, 60 miles an hour. That's
Yeah. I read. During my research, I read reports where these people, they'd be like this one guy was out in the desert or something, or near a forest. I can't even remember. I think it was Oregon, and he was on a motorcycle. I think it was, and he said he had this motorcycle cranked out as fast as he could get it on this road, and he said that thing kept right up with him.
oh my God. Lucky
So
on them all.
I know those things are fast.
Oh my God.
Apparently, from everything that I have read about them.
Well, all I have to say, Joe, is that I think you're an extremely lucky person. Your experiences that you had was very scary. I'm glad that it turned out the way that it did and that you're okay and nothing totally serious happened. I know you got really sick and ill, but I'm glad that it kind of went away. I think now that you're kind of opening up more publicly about it, I think it kind of makes you have more control of it, of whatever, you know what I mean? And I just hope that for those who listened to tonight's show and those who listen to it in the future, it kind of helps them open up, and they can either reach out to us, or hopefully, if you don't mind, Joe, they can reach out to you on your YouTube channel and contact you and share with you their experiences. And
sure, that's fine.
And maybe you could help them.
I just want to thank everybody who's watching your show. That everybody who's watching Spooky and Raven. Man, you guys really helped me a lot, and reach out to these lovely women. They have such a good heart. I could already tell from.
Well, thank you.
And what they're doing is actually helping a lot of people. They're helping me a lot right now too. There's some questions that was answered. That like that thing that you said, Raven, about the low growl.
Yeah, the infrasound.
Yeah. The infrasound that helped me a lot too. I mean, that's something that I never knew that would. But I believed in infrasound. I heard of infrasound before.
Yeah, and there's certain predators like tigers and stuff who use that on their prey. So it's very possible that these dogmen, and I call them dogmen because I'm not sure what to call them, type of cryptid creatures, they possibly could use the same type of things as well. But maybe it can help you. You can into researching more to help you understand more why you may have felt physically ill and everything else, because that does affect humans in a certain way and stuff, and it can cause certain things. I think if you read up on that tonight, it might hit home with why your body reacted the way that it did after you seen this thing. And this thing was obviously stepping forth towards you. It's almost like it was challenging you, like calling you out, and it was singling you out for sure,
I think part of it was too, and I think that you may be right about it being the swang. I think that part of it too was when you dropped your eyes, and didn't look them square in the face anymore.
Yeah.
That it was disrespect, and I think that might have also been its way of getting back at you.
That's what I think too. I think it was their auntie. I mean, the full fact. I think it was their auntie. That's who that dogman was. That
could very well have been.
It could have been. It could have been. I'm no expert when it comes to this area, but the more of us talk about it, the more we'll start to have a better understanding of why these things happen, what's causing it, and everything else. But we just want to say thank you again for coming and sharing your experiences with us. And, feel free to keep contact with us off the show,
Thank you.
And I truly hope that you talking about it like this has helped you.
Oh, it helped me a whole lot. I mean, now I could actually sleep better. Really.
Oh, I'm glad.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we hope that you have a good night.
Thank you, Raven, Spooky.
Good night.
Good night.
We just want to say thank you to Joe again. Really appreciated that you reached out to us and you shared your encounter with all of us on our show. It was definitely a scary one, that's for sure. And I'm just glad it all turned out the way that it did, and he's okay.
Yeah, so am I. So am I. That had to have been a frightful encounter.
Yeah. Oh, definitely a lot to take in on a vacation. I'll tell you that.
It sure is.
I'm sure it was not something he was planning for. Like, oh, let's go to the Philippines and visit family. And little did he know he was gonna get a little extra, something he'll never forget. And obviously, he has something to talk about. But I'm very grateful that Joe came and shared his encounter. And I hope whoever ends up listening to this will feel comfortable enough to come forward and share their stuff and know that they're not isolated, that a lot of us are experiencing things, and that there are places where we can all come together and talk with each other. And there are safe places. You know, not all of us are going to tear each other down. Not all of us are going to be like, I don't believe you because I believe things don't exist because I've never seen it. Well, you know, there's just so much stuff out there. And there's too many people that are having far too many encounters. And I know a lot of people are like, well, you know, you have to prove it, get a photo. And I think even if you had a photo or if you had a video, people still won't believe you. Just because...
there are some that they could see it for themselves, you know. I mean, it could walk up and smack them in the face and they would only think that their eyes were playing tricks on them. There are some people that you're just not going to convince. But there are people out there that hopefully... they will hear this broadcast and it will help them in some way or encourage them to tell their story, because it seemed like Joe telling his story, it helped him just talking about it and talking to someone who was not going to ridicule him, or actually I believed him. I believed his story.
Oh, I believe his encounter 100%. I mean, just because I've had strange things, you've had strange things.
Right.
We've met so many people just coming to our shows, and in chat, they're sharing the stuff that they've encountered and stuff. But, you know, I think with all of us coming together, it just helps us having a little bit better understanding of what we're encountering, because some people are having it more than just one time. You know, they're having it repetitively. Some people are having these things, these cryptids come to their place night after night, and as well as the paranormal and shadow entities and all these other things. And, you know, I know we talked about a little bit about Chupacabra a little bit when we were in the interview and everything else. And we have done lots of shows on a wide variety of things. And if you guys haven't, you know, checked out all the other stuff, you probably should, because, you know, we kind of cover a little bit of everything, you know. And
yeah, I mean, we have shows on skinwalkers, Wendigo.
There's so many things. We've done like tons of things.
There's so many things, you know, Chupacabra. Of course, you know, everybody that listens to us know we've done several shows on Bigfoot.
Aliens.
We've done UFOs, aliens, you name it, you know, cattle mutilations, whatever.
I do want to do one on reptilians soon. I think that'll be our next cryptid encounter show we'll do. We'll do on reptilians and stuff. But I know Joe asked us, like, do we have shirts? And he's not the only one who's asked us if we have shirts. We haven't ever really thought about making shirts. I mean, I had made shirts for, like, me and Spooky and a couple other people who are our mods. And we all have, like, you know, the Paranormal Talk, the little boy that I had up that I drew. Made as shirts. But I guess if you guys are really interested in having shirts, I guess I could always turn some of my drawings into shirts. You can always just message us on Facebook, and I guess if we get enough people who are interested, we can just, you know, I guess put some out there and you guys can order it if you really want. I know we've been asked it a few times. I guess I just never really think about that stuff, you know. I just think about, oh, let's do a research on a topic, and then we start doing the topic.
I suggested coffee mugs one time. You know, because actually I had a couple people ask me if we had coffee mugs.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple people, you know, a few people ask me if we had shirts.
Yeah.
And I did mention coffee mugs at one time, but I don't know. We'll see what we come up with.
I guess if more people reach out and are interested, then I guess we can go ahead and figure out something and have it up for you guys. I guess it's just, we don't really think about all that kind of different stuff. I know other channels do and everything like that, but we're just always so focused on like, oh, let's try to do research and let's talk about this, or, you know, or we get, you know, talk to other people on email wise that reach out to us. And
well, we never really focused on monetary things, you know, because
oh yeah, we don't
Raven
monetize.
and I do not get paid for doing this show. We do it on our own time, you know, for free.
To meet other people, you know.
Yeah, well, to meet other people, yeah, of course. To meet other people, and we want people to come in to chat. We want you to feel comfortable. We want you to
have a home,
to feel welcome in there.
Yeah.
Even if you don't agree with us.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter.
We all have different theories and opinions when it comes to this.
Exactly. And if you do agree with us and you have had your own experiences, we want you to be able to talk about it and not feel
feel safe,
uncomfortable about it, and to feel safe about it, because it's like Joe's story. I completely believe Joe's story. Completely.
Encounters, yeah.
But I've had encounters of my own, so I know there are things out there.
Yeah. My gosh. Well, I know we have another friend that we keep saying, like, we're going to touch base and have her come on and share her experience, because she had crazy stuff up in Colorado. You remember Crazy Moose?
Oh, yeah.
She's wanting to share her stuff. It's just we have, you know, because all of us have daily life where we got to work, we have family, and sometimes it's hard to fit all of our schedules together just right. So, I don't know. I just thank you, Joe, so much for even just finding us, you know, because we're just two friends who just banter about stuff.
We're just a little video station.
We're not a station.
Program. No, not a station. We're just a little video program. You know, I mean, there were bigger people that you could have reached out to, but you reached out to us, and we are really grateful for that.
Yeah, and like we always say, you know, when people reach out to us and stuff, we want to keep contact with you guys, because we're making friendships, because it helps us too, because we have strange encounters, and it gives us a safe place to talk to other people too. And it just, you know, sometimes it feels, because like you said, you can't always talk to your own family, and you can't talk to people that you're close to, because they're the ones who judge you the most. So,
and that's like, you know, I also do once in a while, I also do paranormal investigations. You know, so if you have a paranormal experience, if you have a cryptid experience, UFO, aliens, black-eyed beings, you know, whatever, you can reach out to us. If you want to come onto the show, just contact us. Yeah. You know, even if you just want to talk.
Yeah.
We will be happy to listen to you. If you want to come onto the show, we would be absolutely happy to have you.
Yep. Well, we're going to end it here tonight, guys. I don't know, Spooky, we even come up with something for next time? I don't even know.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Joe for reaching out to us and for letting us put him on the air.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Raven, for a good show. I want to thank our mods, Nell and Ghost Call Radio,
Doppel.
And Richard,
and
Doppel,
mm-hmm.
Doppel, can't forget Doppel, for doing a good job in chat. I want to thank everybody for coming in and listening to the show. Join us Tuesday, August 7th, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We don't have a topic yet. It's a viewer's request, and there are a couple that we're looking over. In a couple days, we will post what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I want to thank everybody for coming. Please subscribe to us and give us a like, and please share us with others on any social media site you may be a part of.
Yeah, and don't forget to check out Joe's YouTube channel,
Crabzilla.
Crabzilla. Crabzilla. And, you know, check out his blog stuff. And like he said, if you guys, you know, who've had encounters with strange things, you can reach out to him too. But, thanks everybody for coming. If you guys want to get show reminders, you can just click here on our YouTube name, Spooky and Raven, and subscribe. Or you can go to our Facebook page, give it a like and follow so you can see our upcoming show topics. You can also contact us there. You can suggest us show topic ideas, or you can even share us your own personal encounters or whatever. And You can also contact us through our email at anythingbutordinary@live.com. And like we said, if you guys are interested in having a shirt or something, I guess if enough of people reach out to us, I guess we'll make something up. But everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next time. And be safe. Good night.
Good night.